blah, blah. I'm glad you did it too, bro.
I fucking love when you do that. So
Dude, so the last one that we did, it was cool because like we all had that idea because that's our song. Our song's Undone. Shameless plug. Look us up on Spotify. But we did that small bit pretty much at the beginning of every podcast or at the end of it. And we had this idea at the beginning of the last one, like, why don't we just play the live version of that? So that's how we came out to that version, which I'll probably play right here.
And you need a jingle because you need something that's like catchy and iconic for who you guys. Everybody has that for podcast and radio.
I think so. Yeah, you're absolutely
because it's like a brain worm. It burrows into you, and then you like. So then when I think of your band, I think of that jingle. I think of the da da.
Dude, that makes me
cool.
happy. Yeah, that makes me happy. I'm glad that somebody else thinks about that too, other than just us. And like obviously we're not a big band or anything like that. We just do this for fun.
Sure.
Like there's other projects we're trying to pursue, which actually also includes like a music video. I know we're gonna get that in the works, hopefully this year. Our first actress that we had for I don't know if you've heard our song Endeavor.
I did.
Yeah, I would like to call that our flagship song because it's like the one song that that all of us really like. And I think it's the most emotional song we have, not to be emo or anything, but we had an actress and actually shot scenes for that. But it just fell through. And so we kind of have to start over from scratch again, which sucks. But
does she still get paid for it, or
nobody got paid? What sucks is that we took her out to eat and do all these things. And when time came to record, she just time came, like the more and more we did it, the more and more she kind of flaked on us. And it just became apparent that, I don't think this relationship is worth pursuing. So we just left,
Right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I wish her well. I think she was also dealing with like a different job and switching jobs and all that and moving out into another apartment or something. So in fairness to her, I think she was dealing with a lot too. Maybe she just wasn't in the right headspace to pursue this kind of endeavor,
right?
So to speak, pun intended.
Not to mention, 2 podcasts ago, and I want to brag that I did my homework before.
Wow!
Coming here.
Wow! Man, this is
no
weird.
way.
You guys,
this is weird.
You guys were doing a podcast after your show in Vegas, and you were in a hotel.
Yes.
You were very tired. You guys were very hungover, I'm assuming. And you guys talked about how it's like, like from your perspective, it can be sometimes frustrating that like, look, we're going to invite a bunch of people to these shows, and it's kind of annoying to be like, just be honest and say like, hey, I can't make it, or COVID makes me anxious. I don't know if I want to go. And when people say like, oh, you should go to a concert, and like, yeah, sure. And then they don't show up. And I remember listening to it. I'm like, because you invited me, but like I was really burnt out that day, and I was kind of anxious about COVID. But I should have just been honest with you about, hey man, I don't know if I can go. And the next day was like the next concert you had was the day after. But I just remember.
You were there for that one anyway.
I want to apologize for not going to that one though, because it looked awesome.
There are some people. You're not one of them, but there were some people that we wanted to oust because, they said all those things. They're like, yeah, I'll show up. I'll do this. I'll do that.
It becomes an annoyance when these are friends that are close to you and near and dear to you, and then have where there's a mutual thing where you have been there for them and they've been there for you, and all you're looking for is that courtesy follow up, I guess.
Yeah, a courtesy follow up. Look, there's some people and plus like I took some things with a grain of salt because usually winter is peak like sickness, flu time, and then add COVID on top of that. The C word we're not supposed to say. Whatever, like it's not something nobody's heard, especially unless you've been living under a rock. But I get it, and I understand some people have different comfort levels when it comes to stuff like that, and that's totally fine. And you're one of them. Some people actually did get sick, and I was like, yeah, stay at home by all means. Like I think the American mindset has shifted now. You know what I mean? Like the thing about getting sick now, it's like if you are sick, I think people understand that you will stay at home and you don't want to get other people sick. Because it could be COVID, or it could be even flu, pneumonia. It still kills people. And, So like before, you remember we would go to work sick. I did. I have. I think I even had COVID going to work at one point.
Dang.
I just didn't know it was COVID yet because this was January 2020. I got sick.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't even know if it was
I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't even know if it was in the States. What's funny is like, some of the people we used to work with, I won't say any names, but they said they got antibody tests and they found out they did have it.
Dang.
So that's nuts. Like it probably was already here.
Right, but the virus that may not be named or not, like, sorry, it's not Voldemort. It's. I think that like with any kind of this kind of public facing organization, like what you guys have with this band, I imagine that the more success you have, you're going to encounter fair weather fans, right? Where it's like, yeah, you know, you guys are great, but then it's like when push comes to shove, like, okay, are you going to show up to our concerts? Are you going to buy our albums? It's like, yeah, sure. And you're like, you just gotta accept it. Like they just lied to your face, but that's just the humanity, right?
Yeah, you know, I don't expect anybody to really like this stuff, to be honest. Like other than me, him, and our drummer, that's it. Anything. I frame it from such, I guess you could say, a low bar. It's just like, dude, like if we don't like our own stuff, how can I expect other people to like it? But I love our stuff,
right?
And I really do love the time that I've spent in this very studio making these songs, and like, you know, the times that we got drunk here and like started like reminiscing and you know, talking shit and like even like coming up with riffs, putting ideas together. It's like, to me, that entire process was so fun. And then to see the culmination of that turn into an album and eventually shows that we've played, it's awesome. Like I love that. We love that, you know. And I hope that the energy that I'm emanating is that this is cool because we think it's cool. And if you'd like to come watch us, if you'd like to buy our stuff, small hint of what we're going to drop. We're actually coming up with some food.
What?
Yeah, I'll tell you off the air. Okay. But basically, some people who know already know.
Know what's up.
Yeah, they already know what's up, and if they've been listening, they know what it is. But we're coming up with like other things that we think is authentic to us, and we'll talk about it after this show. But basically, yeah, like we're just doing things that we think are authentic to us. That if people want to join in, by all means,
we want to provide value.
100%.
This happens to be a commodity. Food is a necessity of life. So we're hoping we're good to provide that, you know.
Dude, your mic is coming in hot.
Is it hot?
A little hot.
How about
if you can see his? Yeah, that's actually better. It's funny. Doesn't that mic look like a sperm?
I'm gonna turn down the gain.
Maybe turn it down a little bit. But no, it's just coming in a bit hot. But yeah, like we just, you know, like I don't expect anybody to really like this stuff other than us. And if other people want to like it, that's cool. Other people want to hate it, I accept it too. It's just especially like when we put all our stuff over the internet, and our stuff is all over the internet because this is the age we live in now.
Right.
We have haters. We have people who shit on us. Like, oh, this was crap, or like, you guys suck, or you guys look like 3 Manny Pacquiaos. Like, the Manny Pacquiao thing is like one of the most common things. And to be honest,
wait, who said? Where was this comment?
I think they're calling you Pacquiao, bro.
Yeah.
Because you have the most Pacquiao looking like beard and like the mustache.
Yeah.
Like I can't grow facial hair to save my life, but this guy.
I'm really envious of people with facial hair.
Me too. You know, and it's, you know, there's other people like my former colleague, your current colleague, who just loves like facial hair. She's pretty cute too, and it's just like, oh, man, there's nothing I could do.
Should I introduce myself to people who are tuning in who have no idea who I am?
Oh no, well yeah, sure. It's a bit like farther into the podcast, but yes. Let me introduce you, please. This is Alfred, a former colleague of mine. We met probably right as the pandemic was in full swing.
Yeah,
you know. And, you know, won't say too much about Shop, but, you know, we've been good friends ever since. We talk. I think he's just one of the more real people that I used to work with. Really cool guy.
I've liked Tim since day one.
Nice.
I'm also really glad that I went to the gym
mutual,
today,
bro.
because we're on camera. But I like thank you. I like the zest for life that you have, and you guys all have, and I've just been a fan of your music.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I'm a huge fan of your music. So I've always wanted to come on this podcast because I listen to it while I clean my apartment. And
wow.
I think we've all been listening to podcasts ever since the lockdowns as a form of therapy.
Yeah.
Just so we don't feel so isolated.
Uh-huh.
But it's been great listening to you guys, both in music and this podcast, because it just feels like you are, but it feels like real people.
Oh, man. Zest for life. You got me in the feels. It's probably like maybe the 3rd or 4th time this has happened, and it's I feel really happy because I remember Tim, like in 2013, had come out of like some difficult thing, also let's say relationship based, but like Tim really turned it around, turned over a new leaf, like dressed well, like, and just like got up from a dark place and just made it happen for himself, you know.
And that's a monumental achievement of his own.
It's I looked up to this guy, and I think friends of Tim can also be friends of mine. You guys think alike, so to speak.
I don't know. Like, I don't look for these people. You know, when you act a certain way, doesn't matter how you act.
Yeah,
you will attract people of similar
caliber. Whatever.
You know, if you want to use your country's power to invade another, like, I don't know, Ukraine.
Topical.
You know, like, that's kind of where we are now. Like, you know, I bet you people like him attract people just like him.
Right.
You know, and I think those people are scumbags, but whatever.
I also think as you get older, you start to learn what you like, but also what you don't like. And, you know, looking back in my early 20s where I'm like, I put up with a lot of people that I would never spend a minute with now. And I've become pickier and choosier.
Right.
And it's part of the reason why, you know, I think it's harder to make friends as you get older is because your standards are better. And so, like, there are people I meet every day who are nice, pleasant, affable people, but I don't like time is a precious resource, right? And you can't get it back. And so I want to spend what time I have, especially after having COVID, to spend it with people that I feel add something to my life, that make me, you know, experience what life has to offer and expand my horizons. And so I've been wanting to come on this podcast for a long time. I'm a long time listener, first time caller.
Thank you.
First time.
You're our first guest, bro.
Oh, thank you.
You're like literally he's our first
you're right.
guest. We haven't had anybody else on this podcast.
Alfred, welcome.
We're looking forward to having more guests, you know, like because I'm pretty sure it gets droll if it's just us talking, you know. We'd love to hear I'd like to hear other people's points of view too, because not everybody's the same. Despite how many similarities we have, not everybody thinks exactly the same way. But that's the cool part, is that everybody's different. And I want to hear your thoughts. Hell, I even want to hear, he's sleeping. I want to hear Scout's thoughts too.
Food?
Yeah, maybe food.
Food?
He's an old dog.
I think it's important to really constantly like expand out of your bubble, out of your comfort zone. Because there are some things that you guys have talked about on this podcast where I'm like, I don't really agree with that. But like, maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe it's good for me to expose myself to a different perspective. And like, you know, it's easy for me to think a certain way if that's the only worldview and only like experience that I've had where I have no idea what you guys have been through and your past. I mentioned this before off the air, but like I have so many questions for the three of you.
Please ask away. Please.
Yeah, ask
yeah.
Okay, so okay, obviously, like, how did you guys So you guys have known each other for years before you started this band, but what made you want to start this band? You're like, let's put in the effort, let's come together. When did this happen, and yeah, why did you do it?
You want to take this one? That's a loaded question. Yeah, let's just say I actually met Keith first because we went to elementary school together, and growing up, we were all in our different bands, like me and Keith. Like Keith would hang out with his brother who played bass at the time. Keith's always been more of a drummer. And then me, I picked up the guitar fairly late, like at 7th grade. By late, I mean like, you know, some of these people have been playing instruments. Like he's been playing instruments forever. I haven't, but I picked it up in 7th grade after having a small musical background in like piano and the recorder. Who didn't grow up with a recorder, right? Anyway, so I picked up the guitar. I was fascinated by it. I actually started learning with the Beatles. And naturally, it's just like, dude, I want to be in a band. So I was in a band with my cousin. We played in his garage, not too far down from here, growing up. But I was in the band with like other people who, you know, they were cool at the time. And I think it was great that we were in a band, but we all had different life trajectories. So, but with Keith, I managed to keep him as a friend for such a long time, And so, we've been in bands before. We've been in different bands together. And so like what made it really cool was like one day, to cut this story kind of short because it can get long. Like I've always known Jason also outside of us being a band, because I met him through church when I was still like actively going to church, and he was the sound engineer. I've always known him to be this how should I say, guru of sound. You know, like even to this day, he's my sound guy, as you've seen in the video with the equalization of speakers in the car.
Very helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Because I've noticed, like, I'm like, I really want to, like, okay, I love it. I have a really old Honda Civic, so it doesn't have Bluetooth. So I have, CDs.
Yeah.
And
nice.
And some music, I'm like, I really want to hear the bass, but then the car vibrates. And so I watched a YouTube video the other day, and I followed your advice, and I'm like, wow. It's like night and day.
Watch that video. Bet you'd enjoy it. But anyway, like back to the story. Like, yeah, I always knew Jason. And back in 2019, me and Keith decided to pursue a really like serious band thing. But we pursued it with this other guy who was like an older guy. And his mentality was a little bit dated. To put it kind of nicely. But in his music, albeit original, was just not kind of music we necessarily assimilated ourselves with. It's a little too grungy and it's just different. Let's just say different. So we were just like kind of at ends because I had the riff that we know now as Endeavor that me and Jason kind of fiddled around with for years.
Oh yeah.
Years. And it's just kind of like, we've always wanted to put it into like actual recording. And then me and Keith came to a crossroads where like, dude, if we present this to this guy, he's going to like shit all over it. He's not going to like it. He's not going to want to do it, period. So we were just like, I was just like, well, let's get Jason, let's get Jason. We know him to be this and that. And it just took off from there. You know, we put in our demos, together, and we were just like, dude, this sounds good. And it was like the end of 2019. We're like, all right, let's put it. We got demos going and we were ready to start recording. But then there was like a whole bunch of things. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, that 2020 was going to be a very big year. We're like, we just started the band. We like, my photography was doing fairly well. Like, was getting a lot of like recognition for it. I was actually planning to shoot a lot of big events. Our DJ thing was going really well between me, Keith, and our former DJ Skits. And we were on track to like quit our jobs by 2020, the end of 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, but we kind of projected it, and it might have been very ambitious, but it was very possible. So, but we all know what happened that year.
Yeah.
We all know what happened 2 years ago, and it derailed a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm sure a lot of people definitely had it worse than we did. Yeah. We didn't get to do the band thing, and a lot of our projects fell through. But in all honesty, it's like, we still had the band. We still had our ideas. We just couldn't really see each other for a while. So that's why it took as long as it did.
Yeah.
And then Keith, he had to pick his job back up instead of quitting. So he wasn't in the area anymore. But by the time he came back in like 2020, I think December, we came here, recorded his parts so that it's out of the way. And luckily his parts are the drum parts. So it's
which can go first.
Yeah, it can go first.
Yeah.
Then he laid that all out, and we took care of the rest for the next 6 months. It was just me and him being in here like at least once a week, trying to put it down, put out the album, and we just like, dude, I love it. Like I love all the songs on that album, and it is so weird when I see other people sing it. Like I've seen other people sing the songs that I sing, and it's just such a surreal feeling. Like I've seen like Paul sing it. Like I'm pretty sure you know it. Or I've seen people who I used to work with sing it too. And so it's really such a surreal feeling. And that's all I could ever ask for. I don't need like fame. I actually don't even want fame, if I'm honest. I'd rather have money, because the thing about fame that sucks is like, people tend to recognize you and bug the crap out of you. It's like, give me your autograph, give me this. Like, right. Dude, you see these people get really annoyed. Have you ever seen Dave Grohl? Like there's a clip of him, like somebody asking him. Dave Grohl's the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, former drummer of Nirvana, for those people who don't know.
Yeah.
He got approached by somebody. He's like, can you sign this? And he literally says, I stopped signing shit years ago unless it's for charity. He was so visibly annoyed. It's just like, dude, he doesn't want the fame.
Yeah, there's some sort of like social responsibility when you're famous. Because you're in the big light. You're obliged to, act a certain way, filter what you say on social media. It's tough. Dude, I don't want fame either.
That's kind of like Joe Rogan. That's what he's going on. That's what he's dealing with right now.
Infamy.
Kind of.
Infamy, yeah.
He's dealing with infamy because he's supposedly spreading like a lot of COVID misinformation. I don't think he is. I've listened to a lot. I've actually been listening to him today while I was wrenching in the garage. The guy is just talking, man. Just like me or you. He doesn't claim to be an expert. Yeah, millions of people listen to him, but he's just talking, dude. And like, do you think he wants to deal with these people calling him these things? No, he's just talking. And it's just like, I don't want that either, man. Like, I don't want to deal with like people like knowing who I am or whatever. And to some degree, I'm kind of appreciative we're not that big yet. Yeah. Because I'm sure they're going to dig into all these old podcasts like they did for Joe Rogan and be like, oh, he said the N-word, which will substitute with Nutella. You know, he used to say Nutella all the time, you know? So it's just kind of like, in some ways, I don't mind being big. But if we make money, all for it. Right. You know,
there's so many avenues of where I want to go from this in this conversation, but like, because I was listening to a podcast recently about that, about like morality and like, you know, you think about how do we judge things in the past with a modern lens and like how fair that is. Like like the podcast talking about how like, okay, so like, you know, in the past couple of years, we've been having this push to like, really, why are we having these statues of these terrible people? Right. But it's like maybe an emotionally intelligent perspective is like, yeah, like George Washington owned slaves, but he also founded this country and they offered him like king for life and he refused it. And like everything that this country was founded on is based off a lot of his actions. And it's not a good idea to like only think of one or the other. It's like, it's important to have almost a paradoxical contradictory perspective of like how you can understand both things.
You mean it's a necessity?
Yeah, you kind of do. And it's like maybe it's unrealistic to judge people with a modern perspective on things that happened a long time ago because things have changed. And who's to say that like even if I think I'm a very forward-thinking person, I'd like to think I am, that things I say on this podcast or in general, like 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be like, oof, like you deserve to be canceled. But on the other perspective, it's like, I do think a lot of people who are complaining about cancel culture, I find kind of annoying because they're really complaining about consequence culture. Because it's like, in a free market, I don't have to pay money to listen to you spout nonsense or stupid bullshit. And like, you're not necessarily being canceled. It's more like people just aren't really into your thing anymore. So I think it's more about like, because you talked when we were off the air earlier about like, do I want to just like surround myself with this negativity? Do I want to try to be more positive for my own sanity, for my own mental health, right? It's like, yeah, like I think the biggest life lesson I learned in my career and my job is like, is this the hill I want to die on? Is this the crusade that I want to like throw my body onto the pyre for? But I've heard you guys talk about these kind of like, these kind of like sensitive topics about politics or about like philosophy on the podcast. And that's great. Cause that's kind of like what I like to hear. Cause I'm interested in your perspective, but also like, I don't want to like antagonize anyone either. I don't know. I think it's such a complex thing. We got to be careful, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to like self-censor myself. And I think it's better to be forgiving too, right? Where it's like, okay, maybe somebody we listen to or like says something stupid years ago, but like, people are capable of change. People are capable of feeling sorry, and maybe we should be more forgiving and understanding.
You're absolutely right. And I think people don't realize that, because I think we're so used to the TV or the media being absolutely right, that now they can't look at it like they're even a little wrong. When in reality, all of us are a little wrong, at least, maybe some more than others. But like, I think that's what that develops trust, is seeing that you are flawed and that you have other opinions and that there are other ways to look at things and that you can change your mind or you can change your opinions. Like, I think being married to an opinion is absolutely dangerous because that means you have no room to look at other things. And it's also corrosive in a way, because if you don't change your mind or view on one thing, you probably will envelope that feeling towards a lot of other things too.
Right.
And so it's just like, dude, even if I disagree with someone, I'll try, like we were saying this on the way here, I'll try to strike common ground first to come from a point of understanding. Maybe there's some, and to also have this mentality where it's just like, dude, I don't know everything. And I probably will never know everything. Maybe you know more than me. Maybe I can learn off of you. Instead of like, oh yeah, I know this. I know that. I'm an expert in this. Like, I know. It's so like, off-putting to come across somebody who's like that. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm the leading expert in this, and that's wrong what you did here. You know, and then how is it that somebody can think like that, but another person who probably knows more than them is just kind of like, well, I think it's better this way, and here's why. I think a lot of things in life are just better if you talk them out, like a podcast.
Right.
You know,
recognizing that you're not my enemy, right? Like, I'm not here to kill you. It's like, because, like, for example, for me personally, about Joe Rogan, I'm not a personally huge fan of him. I think he says himself, he's a moron. And I wish he kind of pushed back against some of his guests who've said some really dangerous stuff a little bit more. But like, I think it's healthy for me to hear your perspective about Joe Rogan, and also recognize that he's just a person, right? He's not the president of the United States.
Yeah.
He's not the cultural arbiter. You know, it's like,
I don't think he's actually genuinely trying to sway opinions one way or another. He's just talking. Like, I've watched a lot of his podcasts, and this is just a comedian who just likes to talk shit. That's it, man. And he just likes to talk, and it's not like he's trying to he has his views. He doesn't impose them on other people. He's willing to change his opinion if somebody comes on that podcast and tells him otherwise. Right. That's all.
And not to mention the fact that, like, if people are surprised about, like, whatever, like, skepticism he has about COVID, I mean, he's been into conspiracies for a long time. Like, why did we not care when he talked about, like, the moon landings or, like,
JFK?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So, I don't know, but I think it's for me. Maybe I have like a humiliation thing, but I'm in a mindset. I'm trying to be in the mindset of like, please prove me wrong. Please show me that I'm a moron. Please show me that I'm wrong about it. Because if I, like you said, if you're in a bubble and then, like, you're only like stuck in this opinion where you think you're right all the time, then that's dangerous too for you, for your own health. And I think for me, obviously it sucks in the moment to be like, oh wow, like I'm wrong on this issue. But then afterwards, you're like, I'm really glad that you like kind of verbally kicked my ass because it made me better.
Right. After you put the pride down and your ego aside, the learning experience is it's good.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you guys something? This is like one of my favorite like memories to talk about. Is I had a relationship where I was cheated on. And at the time, I was like really upset about it, obviously, and I felt really humiliated. But I'm going to tell you right now that in retrospect, looking back, that's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And I know that sounds weird because it helped me grow up. It helped me not like be so insecure and like just be. I'm not like, I don't want it to happen again. Don't get me wrong, but I'm grateful for the experience because I didn't die from it. It didn't kill me. It made me a better person. It taught me not to be bitter, and I'm actually kind of crazy way grateful for it, and it helped me grow up a lot, especially in terms of relationships. And I love telling that story because it's like, sometimes what feels like the worst thing to happen to you it might actually be the best thing for you.
I've been cheated on before. I know what that's like. I actually went all the way to San Antonio to see this person. San Antonio, Texas.
Jeez.
Oh man, maybe they're listening. Damn, they know who they are now. Damn. Anyway, long story short, I know what that feeling is like when you go there for somebody and their thoughts are completely not on you. They're on the person who was there a month ago.
And that's okay. That's life.
And that is life, dude. And it's just kind of, it wakes you up to the reality that is life, that, not everything goes your way. Not everything is going to pan out the way you want it to. And just like, in some ways that was really good. That hardened me a little bit and helped me develop emotional callus, where it's just like, that's just a part of growing up, as you said earlier, right? Where it's just like you have less capacity to deal with these things because you kind of already know what it's like.
Yeah.
And therefore you don't want to deal with it again because not only are you getting older, you just know what it's all about, So sometimes you can see these things happen from a mile away and where you're just like, dude, I'm out.
I'm out.
Failure is the greatest teacher. And I feel like I think it's, it's healthier and you tend to meet wiser people for people who've stumbled and failed and totally messed up than someone who's like never made mistakes and has always got it right because they don't have the right perspective on like how the world is. Like one of my favorite quotes from the TV show Star Trek is, you can commit no mistakes and still lose. And that's not a reflection on you. That's just life, right? You put in your blood and sweat and tears into like a relationship or a band or a project or a job, and it didn't pan out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you messed up or that you know your life is over. It's just this is how it is.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating to learn. That's such a frustrating lesson, but it's a necessary lesson.
Do you feel like that's akin to if you don't play, you can't win? Like you can't just camp out.
Yeah.
You have to participate.
Just like Kobe said,
you know,
you can't. Was it Kobe? I know Kobe has said it, but it might be Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky. You can't make them if you don't shoot them.
Right. And it's like one of the best advice I got in terms I don't know why we're talking about dating so much, is like you have to get rejected. Learning what rejection feels like. You got to put yourself, because if you never try, then you're never going to learn. You're never going to grow.
Yeah, this is so true. So like recently I was seeing someone, and although they kind of made it clear what their intentions were, and I made it clear what mine were, I think they were just like, we just kind of proceeded as if, you know, we didn't really know all these things. But I think the further on we went in that relationship, it was just very clear that, you know, she wanted different things, or she wanted me to be different things. And so it was just like, dude, I don't know what you want. I just don't have the capacity anymore. And I just kind of was just like, fuck it, we're done. You know, like, why do I have to subject myself to all these things? You know? So it's just kind of like, before, if that was me at like 21, 22, I'd be like, oh no, I really want to try to make this work, because, you know, like you act in scarcity, and then you have this like super try hard mentality where it's like, it's got to be this or nothing. And I remember what that's like. In some ways, I feel like I'm still kind of like that. And I try to catch myself before these bad things happen, where it's just like, look, you know, not everybody will be your friend. Not everybody's going to be your girlfriend. Not everybody's going to want to suck your dick, so to speak, you know? Right. And that's okay, because like you said, that's life. So just deal with it. Because there's people who probably want to be your friend, and people who want to listen to your music and want to have lunch with you, want to go to a grocery store like we did earlier today, and just like, you know, that was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. That was really great. to be around to good people, and accepting that like you can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, right? That like,
that's a good one.
I love that.
That's a great one.
That's such a hard lesson to learn, especially for our job. But I think it was either Lady Gaga or Lana Del Rey who said that you could be the juiciest, tastiest peach pie in the universe, but there's going to be somebody who hates peach pies, right?
Yeah,
and that like that's just it. That's life. That's okay. And learning to live with that. Like you said, like you guys have some haters, but there's always going to be haters.
There's always going to be haters. Right. And trolls.
Yeah.
Who like have nothing better to do in the, like, I look at trolls, because I used to be somewhat of a troll. It's so easy. And we were talking about this in the car ride when we were leaving the grocery store. We're like, dude, like, it's so easy to hate. It's so easy to be a troll. It's so easy to say that was shit. That was crap. Yeah. Like this rendition of rock and roll was crap. Like, dude, we didn't do it because we wanted to be good. And if you didn't like it, that's fine. Like, but it's so easy to shit on other people, but it's so hard to come from a place that's genuine and say that was actually good. If you don't have it, if you're not genuine about that feeling, just don't say it, dude. I think like negative energy is just so corrosive. When people put stuff like that out there, it shows that they have nothing good going on in their life. Right. That's how I think. Right. If you're somebody who loves to shit on people, like being an internet troll, or if you're like somebody who loves to like comment on like somebody being like fat or overweight, and it's like, dude, just because they're fat or overweight doesn't necessarily mean they don't know what's going on. They could be going through something. You don't know. Right. Talk to these people, man. You don't even know. And that takes energy. Energy that trolls don't have. They'd rather move on to the next thing they can shit on. And it's just like, dude, why do we even engage? I choose to not read these comments. I only know because Keith tells me. He's the one who kind of looks at our like, I and you know this, I don't spend time on Instagram other than posting and ghosting. I don't read comments. I don't read messages. I don't read none of that, because I think what's strong with social media and the way they get you hooked is by having no resolve. When you have these things on the internet that make you mad, like trolls,
you'll stay on there.
You'll stay on there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that keeps people on there, is when they see these bad things. You ever notice how like when somebody like goes to a car meet and then does like some stupid burnout, and that's either gets caught by the cops, or like they crash into another car, like a Ford Mustang. You know, that's like the butt of the every car meet joke. But anyway, the point here being is like you'll stay on there and you'll want to see more like that.
Yeah.
Because it's so like grueling. And I catch myself sometimes like looking at these things like on YouTube's like, why the hell I spent like 5 minutes looking up cars like doing stupid shit. But that's how they get you, bro.
The algorithm is just the suggested side of YouTube is just populated with the same
algorithm
stuff.
is nuts.
If you let it autoplay, you're gonna be stuck in a rabbit hole for sure.
And they want you to be.
Yeah.
You know?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I get into disagreements with my girlfriend about this all the time. But I really
Shout out to you, Julie. Wish you were here.
yeah, she's great.
Like you.
She's really great.
Love you.
She's awesome.
Wish you were here.
Where it's like I really feel like as social media, we're not ready for it. Like we still have
We as humanity.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to reference Joe Rogan, like we still have the monkey brains of our 100,000 year old ancestors, where we were designed to remember 20 people in a village tops, right? And now we're exposed to opinions of literally everybody on the internet. And so, like, when someone says something really stupid and dangerous, right, where like it's like like a toxic viewpoint, most people would just like, I'm going to ignore you. But now you have communities on the internet, on social media that where you could be validated, and you guys nailed it on the head of that. A lot of social media companies noticed that clicks and engagement were better when it was something really like anger inducing or toxic. But I feel like we're the first generation to really recognize mental health, and what we're doing is the equivalent of like just only eating junk food and smoking cigarettes all the time, where it is negatively affecting our brains and our psychology and for our kids, and it's like, I think the healthiest thing to do I don't want to like completely erase social media. It's obviously important, especially with what's going on in Ukraine. But I think it's really important to like do what you do, which is like, don't pursue this like, looking for the negative stuff, right? Like what? I'm sorry, I'm just dropping all these fucking quotes. But on Avatar: The Last Airbender, Uncle Iroh said that if you look for the light, you'll often find it. But if you look for the darkness, that's all you're ever gonna see. Right? And so like if you're just looking for dark shit all the time, it's going to drive you crazy. And then you're going to think that that's what the whole world is like, but that's not true at all. Right? Like you said, you find common ground. It's a lot easier for me or anyone to shit on someone when it's anonymous and your real name's not on your Twitter handle and you're just being mean to someone online. But if I say that to you in person, it's a lot harder for me to pull that trigger. Right?
It's hard to say to someone's face. And that comes to this point where it's just like, what? You wouldn't say it to someone's face because, one, you could get shot, killed, punched, whatever.
Right.
There's always that becomes very real. But also it's just like, what's possibly even worse than all of that is just being wrong and living with it. Right? And when people talk to you, this is why I love talking to people, is because it's like, how come we can't just talk it out?
You're good at it too. You're very charismatic.
I don't think so. I feel like I'm still very shy, but like honestly, I just like to talk to people because I admit that I just don't know everything, and I grew up with like my mom, and maybe this was just their generation, and maybe the generation before them, where it's just like the parents are always right. The parents are always right, no matter what. They make the right decisions.
No room to budge.
No room to budge, and they're not willing to accept that they were wrong. Even though, like, now looking back at some of the shit that my parents have done, there's probably not the best things in the world. And it's not in their nature to ever admit that, where it's just like, now I look at it moving forward. It's like, dude, I don't want to do that.
So is that an error of parenting? Like if we were to typify that, is that an Asian Filipino thing?
No, I think it's a parenting thing. Yeah,
I think it was just a generational parenting.
You're hitting on. I think the term is paternalism, right? Where it's like this paternalistic thing of like, like I'm God. I'm what I say goes. I'm the king. I'm the emperor, and like I can't be proven wrong. And you see a lot of like political leaders where it's like they can't admit that they messed up because like any sign of weakness makes you vulnerable to your kids. But it's like we're not idiots, and so we see that what someone's doing is objectively wrong. If they refuse to admit wrongness, it's like, oh gosh, it builds resentment. It's toxic.
And I don't think people just don't trust you anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's strictly like an Asian Filipino thing. I think it might be a generation thing. I don't know, because remember their parents beat them, right? And so like it's like every generation we're trying to be better. I have a lot of friends who've had brutal conversations with their dads where it's like, Dad, you need to go to therapy. Like you went through some traumatic shit in like Vietnam or whatever when you were a kid, and you have never dealt with it, and you have uncontrolled rage issues. In my job, I can't speak for everybody, but in my job, I encounter a lot of people who, like patients or patient family members who, you know, like have serious unchecked mental health issues, specifically rage, right? Where it's like, you know, like I'm a man, I can't express my emotions besides, like I can't express despair or joy or anything besides just anger and laughter.
You mean it has to be if there was rage or sort of maybe they wanted to prove their point, or just be right. You're saying that they had to funnel it into aggression?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like maybe like you're not really angry. You just feel insecure because your loved one is sick, and you're for the first time in a long time, you're not in control of the situation. I get it, but the only way you can express it is with like terrifying rage, right? Like road rage, especially, right? It's like you're frustrated because you're going to be late for work, because you're mad because you overslept. But now you're so angry on the road, and that's the only emotion that you were taught how to do it.
Right.
And so, like, maybe, who knows? Maybe, like, in 30 years, like, our children are going to be like, "Wow, Alfred, like, you really got to get over your mistrust of robots."
I feel, you know, we're kind of in this semi-sandwich generation. Mm-hmm. By semi, I mean, like, because some of us in our age group have children. I don't have children. Hopefully not. Pretty sure I was careful. But the point here I'm getting at is like we were just talking before we started this about our dads and our dad's generation.
That's right, yeah.
You know, we were just talking about like how it seems like, at least in my experience, Filipino dads just like to tend to hold on to some stuff. Some are cognizant of it. Some don't want to admit it. But like I can say that my dad, you know, he's taken on different projects in his retirement that never really saw the light of day. Like he picked up a free sewing machine, and it's like bigger than this table. It's an industrial sewing machine. It's even powered by a motor that needs motor oil. It's one of those, bro. It's an electric motor, but it needs motor oil. It needs to be lubricated. Like he even got it serviced, right? An industrial grade sewing machine. And this is to like make leather or upholstery or something.
So I could like
on a macro scale
alter my pants. Because I'm not,
dude, that's like too small for it. It's that big, man. It's huge. It's bigger than this table, this one right here. And you know what? He put it under wraps, and it's been sitting in the backyard ever since. And it's been 3 years. And that's not the only thing he's ever done. He tried to redo the bathroom, couldn't do it. I get it. He's old. He probably wants to do something in his retirement that gives him some sort of meaning. And he's also tired. The guy also had cancer, you know, like he had a tough time. Like I'm very happy he's well now. Then we're not dealing with that anymore. And it was a pretty tough episode, you know, to see him go through that. But at the same time, I think it's like I start to see that not only my dad, but other people's dads are like that. And most of my friends that I went to school with are Filipino or Asian in nature. And I thought for the longest time it was more like a Filipino thing because other friends' dads hold on to like a car that doesn't even work anymore in the garage or in the yard and thinking like, oh no, one day it'll work. One day it'll, you know, like I'll get it to work and I'll sell it. It'll be worth a lot of money. And it's just like, even, you know, like, and I'm somebody who likes cars. I'm somebody who spends a good portion of work on Craigslist looking up cars, as he knows. Probably you know. Maybe definitely Maria knows. But like, I'm looking up cars and I know the value of some cars. And some of these cars they're thinking is going to be worth a lot really isn't. So what they're clinging onto really, I think, are just memories. You know, especially when it's a car that's like, oh, that was the car I took your mom on a date on, or that's the car that you grew up in. That's the car that I took you home from the hospital in, you know, like I think you can't sell memories though.
Oh yeah, you know? Tim, I'm going all in on the PT Cruiser. It's going all the way up. There's a joke in our parents' generation of like, oh, I'm going to get a treadmill. And the joke is, oh, you're going to get another hamper? You're going to get another towel rack?
Yes.
Coat
oh my
rack?
God. How many? Oh, dude, that's something that I've seen treadmills that aren't being used.
You spend like $1,000 on a Peloton, which is like your new hamper. You just toss
Peloton, that's the new treadmill. Right. That's our generation's like treadmill, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Pelotons. I've seen people buy Pelotons. I won't name them on the air, but I've known them to have Pelotons. Yeah, they use it once or twice. And mind you, Peloton's also a subscription, right? And for what? Can you even use, like, I don't know, because I don't have a Peloton, but can you use that bike outside of the internet?
I have no idea.
I got to ask.
That's
like somebody comment and tell us if you can use a Peloton like without the internet, because as far as I understand it, it's a subscription based service. You pay for these live shows,
the incentive,
live riding sessions. I'm not shitting on it, really. I think Peloton's made a lot of money, especially in the pandemic, good for them. And dude, promoting healthy lifestyle by like exercising, 100% good. But also like subscription service, like. And
well, the thing that makes me angry about subscription services is like that news article from a couple months ago where it's like you have to pay a subscription service to remote start your car for, I think, Toyota, and they got into a lot of trouble for it because it's like people bought the car and then like 12 months later they realized they couldn't remote start it because they didn't sign up for this extra fee shit.
Oh,
or like famously,
so the hard part was to actually go in there and start it. Oh my god.
I don't know. I feel like if you buy your car, it should be your car. You shouldn't have to like.
Right.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think subscription services should be more for like we were talking about Tesla, how you can subscribe to the automatic driving, the autopilot. You don't have to have autopilot, but also I do feel like, man, you bought that car. Why can't it come complete? Right. And I was talking about this with somebody who works in video games, where it's just like, how come video games aren't complete like they were back in the day? Obviously, we know the answer, right?
Right.
EA started the whole thing with like,
how can we make more money?
How can we make more money? How can we? Right. Yeah. So EA started like to pay to win and all that kind of stuff, where it's just like, yeah, we'll give you the game, but you know what's also here? This skin you can't get otherwise. This new mission, this new player,
which ends up so you got to wait a year for the golden edition with all the DLC, which should have come in the game in the first place. Right. But then when you wait a year, all the memes and the spoilers are out, and the lobby is empty because no one does a multiplayer anymore. So you're just like, it's a ghost town.
No one's there.
I know, dude. Like that's the thing that sucks about. I feel like video games just suck now because all they want to do is make money, and we foster this idea of like, how can we make our shareholders happy by making as much profit in the short term instead of making a whole complete game. Like when you think about like these old school games where it was like such a phenomenal game with good gameplay, like Final Fantasy VII and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
And even all the Mario games up until like, even recently, like I felt like they were just complete games. Like I love Super Smash Brothers when it first came out. I loved Melee. But every year Super Smash Brothers or every new rendition of it became like watered down. And guess what? Now you have to buy characters. That's BS. I loved Super Smash Brothers in the beginning. It was super fun, and they built off that formula so well, and I think it really worked. But now it's like, hey, you want to play Cloud? Guess what? You got to buy him. Yeah. Hey, you want to play? Oh, no, I don't think you have to buy him. I think Sora from Kingdom Hearts. You got to buy him.
Wow.
It's like, why do I have to buy him? I bought this game.
There are in-game merch retailers now, third party, just regular Joe Schmoes that specialize in skins, beefing up your accounts,
stats,
and they'll
nuts.
sell you the goods. Not shitting on my buddy because he's a good guy, but he's banked off this on, I believe, Animal Crossing, and that's his bread and butter. That's his bread-winning situation right now.
I'm not going to
interesting, isn't it? Interesting.
I'm not going to play. I'm going to hit the game. Yeah, it's no pun intended. It's people making the best of a kind of a capitalistic situation to pay the bills, right?
So. Oh, he's bought like two. Like he's gonna buy. I think he just bought a GT 500, and we're both like in our 30s, just like, and I bought a pre-owned car, but he's got like a new. It's 6 figures, right? That's an expensive car.
I want to say yes because the GT 500 is like a posh Mustang.
It's very expensive.
It's a nice V8 and it's thirsty.
Mm-hmm. I know some of these words.
And it's supercharged, yeah.
It's got, I guess it's supercharged. Oh, I'm not too versed in American cars because actually, especially as of lately, if you couldn't already tell, I've been watching a lot of Initial
Zoom
D.
In on it. Nice.
So I'm super into the whole JDM thing. And to be honest, it's not like I liked cars forever. I've only started liking cars when I started driving. And that's been when I realized that, cars are actually a real thing. Like I didn't put any posters of cars up on my wall.
Same.
I never did it because it's just like, I never thought of cars as cool. I actually like steam trains. Like I love Thomas the Tank Engine. I thought his shit was dope. I'm still fascinated by steam trains because that's like interesting technology. How you can move a whole ton of fucking people with steam. With no electricity. Like you think of these things that we need to get started with our day, like a washing machine needs electricity, computer needs electricity, cameras, electricity, car electricity. When you think about mass transport before 1900 with just water and fire and metal, whoa.
I mean, essentially, that's how coal plants and nuclear power plants work. Is that they heat up water to steam, and
it turns turbines.
Yeah.
I just found this out last night. Or no. I found this out on Friday. Night. I went down a rabbit hole because they were talking about Russia taking over Chernobyl. I'm like, dude, why the hell do they want to take over Chernobyl? That place, you can't even live with it.
No.
You can't even live in it for 20,000 years.
Yeah.
We might not even have humans in that amount of time. And then I was just like, all right, what the hell happened in Chernobyl, right? And then I just went down this rabbit hole. I was just like, oh, this is how a nuclear power plant works. This is how a nuclear reactor works. It uses the... this is going to get boring.
Go ahead.
This is how like nuclear fission works. Basically what you use are these neutrons, and neutrons, when you blast them really like into another like unstable atom, it splits it. And that's where splitting the atom comes from. And that split triggers more neutrons to come out and go into these other unstable atoms. And then it sets off a chain reaction. And by the way, this all happens in a fraction of a second. Mm-hmm. That's why the explosion is insanely huge with a nuclear bomb. And this is why I'm also fascinated with nuclear warfare, because nuclear warfare is just like, dude, if a nuclear bomb went off even in LA right now with the way they're powered, we're all dead.
Oh, yeah.
At best, we'd have our clothes currently on, like permanently burned onto our body.
Right. And I was watching a video on YouTube of how like, any survivor is also in a really big problem, because if you think about what happens in like a mass like wildfire, like in like the outskirts of LA, right?
Sure.
Like how the infrastructure and like the resource and firefighters have to deal with that, or like what happens after LA has a big earthquake, or what happens after a mass shooting, or what happens after like a bombing. A nuclear explosion is all those things combined. And so like, every hospital, even if one city was nuked, why are we talking about this? Even if one city was nuked, like the entire region's hospital systems, their firefighters, their National Guard, they're all completely overwhelmed.
All infrastructure just down.
Yeah.
Dude, that's just the way to end society right there. And everything goes into chaos.
There's a famous like, I think like philosopher or somebody who said that like, us all having nukes is like being in a room full of gasoline and we're fighting over who has the most matches. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Talking about your band in a terrible segue, actually have a question, because what I like about listening to your music, especially the last podcast you guys had when you had like a live show, is it's very clear. Like you can almost tell, and it's like almost like I can't describe it, like a je ne sais quoi, but it's like a really good band or like a really good TV show or movie where you guys have really good chemistry. Where you can just tell by just listening, not even just watching, that. You guys are in sync, and you know what you're doing, and it creates this great sound. And so my question is, like, when you talk about like your flagship song being Endeavor, right? And I think about, so I'm gonna tell you guys that my musical influence was my older brother. He obviously he grew up, he came of age in the early 90s, which means grunge. And so when he left to go to a high school on the East Coast, and I didn't see him for a long time, and so I had all these CDs he had of like all those classic grunge albums, like Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, etc.
Nice.
And so that's a big influence on me. And in high school, why was I angry? I had such a privileged childhood, but I listened to a lot of Rage Against the Machine.
Nice.
And I think the drummer and the bass guitarist met in middle school. Kind of like how you guys did. Mm-hmm. And I love their chemistry and their sound. And so like when I think of like their flagship song from like their Sucker album being Bulls on Parade, right? And so like, how do you determine what is your flagship song? You said it before.
For this one, it just happens to be the strongest. And if I were to be fully transparent, it received the most love because maybe preface the answer. I sat on that riff since I think like early 2014. Had presented it to Tim. 2014, we jammed on it. I had known him, during our church days, but I think he took a liking to it, and I told him, like, I don't know, it's just a riff. I don't really sing. More on that in a bit, because I'm gonna really have to. It's funny, in the concert, I post up on the mic. Everyone is getting me on this because I'm posting up on the mic like I'm gonna sing, but I don't, and it's just there as a prop. And it looks so cool because I watch it, and I'm like, man, it looks so cool. God damn,
you're
like,
blue balling us, man.
I look so cool.
Blue balling us.
I look so cool.
Come on.
I know.
But no, it received the most love. It's the most wholesome song out of the little album that we have. But
I think that the reason why Endeavor is our title track is primarily because of the lyrics. I'd like to think.
Yes.
I'd like to think that the lyrics on that song are the best in the entire album, but that's because I drew it off of a feeling. And I guess I'll tell the story of Endeavor now, but yes, what Jason said, he was sitting on the riff for a while, like about 8 years ago, and then I came across it. At the time of writing this song, I was coming off of a failed relationship, so to speak. And so what sucks is, like, I felt like I was on the losing end. And I really honestly wish that there was just more time. And I wish that there would have been either more time to explain or more time to prove otherwise, or just kind of like, I wish, we could stay in this moment forever. But the reality of life, as we've already said throughout this podcast, is that nothing lasts forever, and everything's just kind of like fragile and thin. So, sometimes we have to live the rest of our lives knowing that, but maybe we'll die a little bit, like kind of enjoying it now. And then move forward.
Yeah, man.
And that's where the lyrics come from. It just came from a feeling of, like, what, not all relationships last, as you've seen us post. Like, not all relationships are guaranteed to last forever. At some point, you might even resent each other in a relationship. And who knows? You never know where a relationship's going to take you. But even if it's like a purely friendship related one or platonic, whatever the relationship may be, there's no guarantee it'll last forever. You just want to appreciate it when it does, if and when it does. And so when you look at it through those eyes, you tend to treasure your relationships more.
Wow, you guys really wrote from what you wrote from what you know. You wrote from personal experience, and that's what makes it so meaningful. Yeah. I've noticed that what you guys are talking about is the riff came first, the lyrics came second.
Yeah.
Because
it's not like it just happened. It's not like we say, let's come up with a riff and then the lyrics.
Is that I feel like I have a question, or you are formulating.
Is that more common?
There is no right way. There is no wrong way, rather. That happens quite often. Sometimes certain chords, certain melodies will evoke an emotion.
Because certain music, like grungy music, tends to be like, like gritty and piss off.
Yeah.
I remember my favorite story about this is when Eminem was listening to Dido's, what eventually became the riff for Stan.
Yeah.
He in an interview said, "Oh, this makes me feel that this is about a deranged fan." Right, and that's what the lyrics ended up being. And so I'm curious if it's like when you guys are composing, like, this is art. Like, you guys are artists and you're making art. Like is the melody in your head first, or the lyrics, and you want to like create a melody around it?
Can't say that it's either. It just happens.
Right. It just happens.
I'd like to think there is a set formula, but really it's just like, I'd like to think that when we come up with these riffs, then the emotions come after, and then you write off of that.
Right.
I mean, we're going to be in the process of writing more stuff for like an extended album or whatever. And so we'll have all of that, but I'd like to think that at least for these next ones, maybe that is kind of the formula, like riffs came first and then the lyrics second, but sometimes I want to write a song about something or someone, and then I'll come up with something and then draw off of that. It's like, there's no set formula. Yeah. It's just like, dude, a lot of things in life in general are just ones that just happen to happen, and you didn't put too much effort into it. Like sometimes when you put things on a pedestal too, and you try so hard to make things work, you tend to lose respect for it ultimately in the long run.
Right.
I noticed this. So like, let me cite an example. I was talking to Keith about this earlier today.
I'll go for it.
So as you can see, huge Initial D fan, right? This is the AE86, an FD RX7, and FC RX7. not to bore you with lingo from cars, but like I think the holy grail of these JDM, Japanese domestic market cars, is the Skyline. Right? It's the Nissan car. The Skyline is like the car that Paul Walker drove that it was not sold in America, right? Period. Japan was just like, we're going to make this for Japan, maybe Australia and places where there's right-hand drive, but we're not going to cater to the Western, like, United States, these countries that are left-hand drive because they don't care. They just made this car. And as a result, the car was amazing. It was phenomenal. It's constantly talked about on this show, constantly talked about like a lot of big car people. Like the Skyline is one of the holy grail of Japanese cars to be imported here. And as a result, because we didn't get it here, we couldn't, people want what they can't have. It's one of the most expensive cars to buy on this side of the world because it wasn't made for here. So you're buying a 30-year-old Nissan for like $100,000 up to, maybe even more. Maybe especially when the Paul Walker one comes out, the R34, you're going to be paying like $160,000 for a 30-year-old car. And I was just like, like when I signed up to do like a different form of our job, I was just like, all right, well, maybe more money, right? That means I could possibly get one. I was already starting to think about it, like, payment plan, how do I do this? And
the mountaintop.
I stopped myself and it was just like, what's funny is that I wanted to leverage the STI on it. And it's just like, dude, I thought about getting the STI for so long. And now that I have it, I'm just leveraging that towards this.
Right. Something
and
older.
It's just like, something older and it's going to break down more. And it's just like, why? I'm putting so much emphasis into getting this 30-year-old car. And then what? I'm going to like fall out of love with it eventually. It's like I put it too high on a pedestal and now it's just going to like, dude, eventually I'm not going to care. And it's like, is it really worth all my effort to just reach a point where I don't care anymore? So I kind of caught myself and was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to let it go. If it comes at a good price, absolutely. But I'm not going to go $150,000 just for an old Japanese car. $150,000 gets you like a Lambo or a Ferrari or something like very exotic and possibly faster. Although, Italian cars tend to break down a lot, but that's a whole different discussion. Point here is like, to bring it full circle, I think when people put things on a pedestal too much and they do anything and everything to get to it, once they get there, they'll realize like, oh, that was it.
Yeah.
That
could happen in relationships when you like, maybe, and this will harken back to like maybe our younger years, but when you're like, man, this girl's like unattainable. When you finally get to talk to her or date her or whatever, it's like, oh, that was it. Okay.
Dude, okay. Like not to write too much on that, but I've experienced stuff like that.
Yeah, right?
Where it's just like, dude, I thought this girl was really cool, or I thought this person was really cool to hang out with, and you go out to lunch and it's just like, oh, really? That was it? Like,
more often than not,
that's all you
may
are?
just be the the facade of beauty, whatever, makeup.
I don't know, like it could be that too. I'm just saying, like, don't put that's I think where the saying don't idolize your heroes, or you don't put them too high in a place, because then you realize they're just people too.
Yeah.
You're going to be disappointed.
You'd be disappointed because they're human, and you put them like on God status because you've never met them, and then you finally meet them and realize, oh, they're just like you.
You're not in love with them. You're in love with the idea of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in love with the idea of it, and it's the same thing with the Skyline thing. It's like, dude, you really want a Skyline because it's a great car? Like, no, it's because it looks cool on TV, and you saw it on these shows growing up.
This is like one of the fundamental problems of like human existence that you've touched on. In my opinion, the thesis statement for the TV show Mad Men is a line from it, which is, what is happiness? It's the moment before you need more happiness. This hedonistic treadmill of like, I want to have a car. I'm 16 years old. You get it. You're like, actually, I want to have what you have now. And you get it. And now you're like, actually, I want to have this $160,000 car. You're just constantly chasing something that's never, right? It's like, it's like, I'm Alfred, and I'm in high school, and I want a big titty goth girlfriend. And then you get it. And you're like, oh, actually, what I really wanted was a sense of belonging and like a truly loving relationship. And then it's like, you're constantly chasing something and you're never happy. But like, that's kind of like this problem we've been trying to figure out for the entirety of the human race in human history. Like, how do you learn to appreciate what you have, or to not, like you said, put things on a pedestal and recognize that you're in love with an idea of something and not necessarily like the reality of
so
it.
to further drive the point home with our fathers, our old folks, the the post-industrial consumerist shiny commercial with the what's that? I Love Genie soundtrack in the back.
I Dream of Genie.
I dream of Genie. Commercials and ads for appliances and whatnot. It's like, oh man, those were the times where our folks were like, oh, we should get this and that and this. It's just funny to think.
The reason why I primarily thought it was a Filipino thing was because I know a lot of our parents' generation were raised in a pretty impoverished way, poverty driven. Yeah. Impoverished, is that the right word? Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I'm using that word right. But they grew up in poverty, right? They didn't have a whole lot. So now I feel like they're compensating through like buying these things and thinking they have a lot of things, and even if it's things they don't use, it's like, well, at least I have it kind of mentality, where it's just like, I get it, especially like my mom, God bless her heart, but she loves to talk about these stories where it's just like they grew up with like there were 12 of them in the household, but they can only afford 6 sausages. And therefore, they would only cut them in half, that everybody has a piece. I get it. Like, that was a really tough time. And, they are where they are now because they did this, they did that. And it's like, that's cool. But it's like, that doesn't mean also sacrifice your well-being by drowning in too many things. It's like, nobody can even see it right now. It's just like, I didn't know if that's where they were coming from. It's like, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I just kind of want to know what the mentality is. And, I think you hit it on the head where it's just like earlier you were saying like maybe it's a mortality thing. They feel like they have something to look forward to, like a project even. And just because they have it means that, they're not at the end yet. So meaning that there's something to look forward to, even if they don't get around to doing it. It's still kind of there. And just having that sense of, it's still kind of there means there's still a purpose for me here. And I'm still around. So maybe there's that going on. I just don't know, man. Like, and then I even asked this question myself, like to Keith or to someone else, is like, is that going to be us? Do you think that's going to be us when we get older? Like, we're going to hold on to all this stuff and just say like, this was, this is a good guitar, like I even now I'm saying I don't want to get rid of our instruments because we love them. But then imagine it's just like, if we have children, they're going to be like, Dad, get rid of this piece of junk. No one plays guitar anymore.
Yeah. It's some like digital.
Yeah, it's
not even an instrument. They just think
they just blink their eye, or they just think about it. It's like, see, I already played that riff in my head,
and there's no speakers.
This is a new way to play guitar. You just think about it. You just close your eyes, and boom, you play it. And you're just like, no, but this is how I did it back in the day. Look at our show at this thing, and show them this podcast. Like, why are you whipping out your phone, Dad? I can just think about it. Could you imagine if that's the future? Dude, imagine if it's just memory. Like internal memory. It's like you're wired to, dude, that's what Elon's doing. I completely disagree with that.
Oh, man.
Didn't he torture monkeys to do that?
Wait, what?
Did he really?
Well, yeah, he had to test them on monkeys. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, man.
Dude, it's effing nuts to think that you can control people by putting chips in their brains.
So are we plugging in? Are we matrixing it now?
I love the fact that he made electric cars, and the Teslas are great cars. The cars, again, obviously are things that I like. I completely disagree with putting chips in people's brains, because we know this with regular computers. They're hackable.
Yeah.
There's always somebody out there that can anything and everything has a hack. There's always somebody out there, like in another part of the world, wherever it may be, Russia, China, they can hack into this computer.
Especially with the Internet of Things.
Yeah, dude, they can be anywhere and everywhere digitally. So what's to say they can't get in your brain and know your thoughts? It's like, what if you have this chip in your brain and then all of a sudden it's like you lose all privacy at all? It's like if you have a dirty thought, like we love to cancel people now for saying things. Imagine now we cancel people for thinking things.
Just for admiration of the opposite sex, or like, it's like we get canceled.
Who knows? You might.
That's a red flag.
That could be where we're going.
Yeah.
It's
or it's like it's everywhere. Like you're having a dream, and all of a sudden in your dream, it's like, you know what's great? Squarespace. Squarespace has all the things you need to start your own business. And
and you can't skip. You can't skip the ad.
you can't wake up.
You can't wake up. You can't wake up because you can't skip. You have to wait 5 seconds until you can like blink yourself to like, all right, that's enough.
That's so funny,
dude. I just think that's nuts. I mean, we're losing our freedom and our liberty by putting chips in people's brains
because we're giving it away. You want to talk about what you mentioned before? Is that I think it's probably not healthy for all these people to put Elon Musk on a pedestal and simp for him when he's done some pretty shitty things too.
Yeah,
and it's like maybe human. Yeah, it's probably for the best to just like be a little bit more skeptical and not like just say like, oh, this guy's gonna save us. This person's going to solve all our problems. It's like, no, dude, it's never worked. And you talked about, are we going to be like this when we become our parents' age? I don't know, maybe.
I can kind of feel it now.
Maybe there's a famous like ancient Greek, like tablet or something where I think like Socrates or some famous philosopher was like shitting on like kids these days in ancient Greece, like are being so lazy by writing everything down and not remembering it. And it's like that whole like shitting on the next generation has been around.
It must have been around obviously for millennia.
And you're right. Maybe our kids are going to be like, wow, Alfred, you are so, like racist towards robots. It's like, like you got to accept them for, I'm like, they're not real.
They're not people.
Yeah. They're machines.
Dude.
It's like, stop calling them toasters. That's their word. You don't get to use their word.
Oh my, dude. Doesn't that seem like a possibility? Like, sure. It's funny, and also it seems like it'd be so real.
Yeah.
It's like, Dad, I want to have sex with this guitar, and I don't give a shit what you think. Or like, I want to have sex with this robot. And it's just like a very humanoid looking, let's say it looks like fucking the Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, I love him, Dad. And then it's like, dude, it's not even a real thing.
And then we need new pronouns at that point,
Yeah, and it's just like, it's not a he or they. It's Arnold or whatever. It's the Terminator. It's like whatever like gender they want to call it or thing, like. Oh my gosh, dude.
Get out of my house. I'll be back.
Dude, that was good. I enjoyed that.
Have you guys ever seen the film Her?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, it's you should see it. You should also see the miniseries Chernobyl, speaking of it, but you should see Her.
I was going to get on that. I don't spend a whole lot of time watching these things, but I hear it's a downer.
I mean,
Chernobyl is in general a downer already.
It's not a fun experience.
Of course not. The worst really nuclear accident in history. Yeah. But back to Her, maybe explain that to me and other people. I don't care about the spoilers. It's just just tell me what it's kind of about, and then just for people who are listening.
Spike,
I'll let Alfred take it from there.
Her is I fucking love movies. I'm really nerdy about them. Her is a 2013 Spike Jonze movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, and it's about a man who has a relationship with his AI. It's like in the near future, and it's really beautiful, and it's like a really well written movie. It's really well done, but it does raise this question of like redefining what is a relationship. Like there's a lot of sci-fi and TV shows where it's like, okay, like you were in love with a fantasy, or you were in love with something that's not human necessarily or not real, but like the moments you had were real. Like maybe this robot or this AI,
the experience.
Or this
your emotional.
The moment was real. It told a joke and you laughed. That was real. It's like, can you take that away from someone? And it raises the question of like, how do we define what is a real experience or not? And does that take away from it if it wasn't like a real person who told you they loved you?
Wow.
Fuck, this is
really interesting. It's
that's
really interesting.
Deep. I've never watched.
Does anyone have a joint or something? I'm just kidding.
I can't take that away from anyone who has something that they feel is very real.
Right.
Especially if hopefully it's just not killing anyone. If you're having feelings of love or feelings of like, pure joy and happiness, I guess to me at least, if it doesn't come at the cost of hurting other people, power to you.
Yeah. If it doesn't come at the expense of like putting someone down well-being. Well-being, feeding your ego, or killing people.
Killing is the more extreme version.
That is the extremity.
But I think if you want to have a relationship with an AI, however you want to have a relationship with an AI, I think that's cool, just as long as it's not hurting other people. I think all of us can agree that we don't want our loved ones to get hurt, unless you're extremely sadistic or weird or
or bitter,
really out there, or bitter. Who knows? You're going through a state, but I want to say that a lot of us don't want other people to get hurt. I don't want you guys to get hurt. I don't want your loved ones to get hurt. So to see something bad happen as a result of you having sex with a robot, I'm going to say no.
This podcast is brought to you by OnlyFans. OnlyFans. Get your rocks off today.
Is that the
real?
OnlyFans is nuts, dude. OnlyFans is super
the level
nuts.
of monetization for XYZ.
So,
fill in the blank there.
let me bring up a small OnlyFans story. So the person, no, I wasn't on it. I don't know anybody on it. I don't think, but like there was our former actress for Endeavor, the music video. She knew somebody who went on OnlyFans, and she made somewhere around the realm of like 120,000.
She didn't have to work a day job.
A month.
A month?
She flashed her goods.
Good for her.
And I think she ended up buying like a big house and a mansion, right? With that comes, the scum bags of life. She also got like stalked. Oh, that was horrible.
That's bad.
Yeah, that was bad. She got
That's all
stalked.
bad.
She got followed. She had to move houses and get security. I mean, naturally people are really weird, or people feel like they have the sense of entitlement, especially because they paid for it.
Yeah, when there's a monetary thing, it's like I put my hard money.
Could you imagine? I'm not saying that these people don't exist, but damn,
that's crazy.
I didn't think it would be real until something like that happens. Could you imagine, especially if somebody spends all their 40-hour work week's worth of money on you making a personal message and video towards them? It's just like, hey,
that you get off to.
Happy birthday, blah, 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 or hope you had a great Friday, whatever. And it's just like, you feel like you own them because you paid for it.
Right.
And it's like, dude, that's so weird.
I mean, that's really like the fault of the consumer. I personally think that it's great because there is a lot of serious, especially capitalistic ethics with pornography, where the person, the individual who is bearing themselves all aren't really getting majority of the profit. But with OnlyFans, I imagine you get most of the profits. Well, you want to talk about anonymity? Maybe this podcast should be brought to you by OnlyFeets, where it's just feet pics. That's it. No face, just your feet.
A subsidiary.
Is that really a thing? Is it a subsidiary?
No, it's not.
No, it's not a thing.
Oh, damn.
But I imagine
I wouldn't doubt it though.
I imagine there's a huge business out there of like people who are like, I'll pay you like $100 to film yourself taking off your socks with only your feet, and that's it. And like, you know what? Hey, all right, you paid the bills.
This is okay,
toes. Only toes.
Only toes.
Wow. Well, you know what? Rule 34. Everybody here knows what Rule 34 is. If you can think it, it's a thing. So we were talking the other day about, ostomies.
Oh, dude.
Oh no.
Okay.
If you can think it, it's a thing. And I'm sure it's a thing somewhere.
On that note, I'm going home.
Oh no.
Well, not to get too into it, but it's just kind of like, dude, I wonder how many people out there. And from what I hear, Keith's brother, Kurt, he works in cybersecurity. He knows how to navigate the waters of the dark web. And I only know the dark web from what other people tell me. I've never actually been on it. And apparently you need software to get on it because it's not easily accessible or something. But the internet is really like the tip of the iceberg if you look at it, because the dark web has absolutely everything.
There's a lot of bad stuff.
A lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of, I guess you could say, good stuff, depending on how you look at it. Like, right. When I say good, it's like, free movies,
right?
Or places where you can buy things that you can't normally buy.
Right.
Maybe some other things that are like
military action level.
Okay, that's even worse than what I was alluding to. But yeah, like you can get guns, you can get drugs, you can probably get a tank. You could probably buy like some other things. You could probably get some things that are very frowned upon, like. That involves human beings that aren't even supposed to be doing anything you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Jeez,
like you'll find a lot of that stuff there. And I think there's a good reason why all that stuff is filtered.
Right.
But the dark web,
it's
big.
We're talking about splitting the atom earlier. I feel like the internet it's just something that our brains are just not ready for.
That's the first time I've heard that, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, because it's back to the sort of monkey mentality, homo, insert the blank, the whole
Sexual.
Trajectory.
Oh, just kidding. And canceled.
All the iterations of the early humans when we were really hairy up until now. Yeah, you're right. We can't. I don't think our attention spans are not there. I feel bad for child development and children of this day and age, and I'm hoping parents can get a grip on their children when it comes to their attention span and learning. That's a side tangent, but yeah, we weren't ready for the internet.
I think we just got to be really careful. And I know, like, this is easier said than done. And I am speaking from an immense sort of privilege by not having kids. But, like, maybe we shouldn't let, like, the next generation of kids have, like, a smartphone or access to the internet until they're, like, 8 or 9, right?
I think the same thing. And then, like, some people I've asked who have children, it's just like they're on their iPad. And it's just like...
I get it. Like, you're exhausted. You're busy. You can't, like... you're tired. I totally get it.
I applaud the parents that are kind of like
doing their best
to harken back into
it. Trying to do it.
To harken back to a simpler time. I know our buddy, we have a friend that moved pretty far from here, but he was talking about not letting his kid, who I'm an uncle to, a godfather to, not watch television too much. He's just kind of like, watching educational television, letters and numbers and learning his lullabies and songs and such, but not immersing this new 1-year-old, I think he's 1+-year-old, but not letting him watch just like regular adult movies.
Wow. I wish I got to watch regular movies. As a 3-year-old, like, yeah, what are they doing?
Regular programming.
No, I
You know what I mean?
I agree, and it's just like sometimes, like again, like you said, I'm coming from a privileged point of view where I can talk about these things, but yet not really live it because I don't have children, hopefully, not yet. But the point here is like, dude, I don't know if I want them playing around with stuff, because I think about, and I know I'm gonna sound like an old fart here, but like I think about the time when I grew up as a kid, and it's just like, dude, all I had was the Game Boy, no internet. I had to go outside and play. Like had to do things that way. And I would love to see that happen for my children if I ever have them. But like, also it's just like, dude, maybe you just got to get with the times,
Right.
But also it's just like, I think it's just good for kids to go out and play because it's good for their health.
Yeah.
The kids should be out and playing, kicking a ball or throwing it and sometimes getting hurt. Like I fucking went skateboarding.
Eating it,
Go outside, kids, but stay off my lawn.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate being on this podcast, and I look forward to being canceled tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we should wrap it up then. But anyway, right before you go, bro.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Oh no, I promised we wouldn't talk shop, but Tim and I used to work together. And by Tim, I'm referring to Timothy Chalamet Santos. And in our job, we have like these magnets with our photos on them when we first start working to indicate who's working where. Yeah. I kept yours. It's in my locker because
you honor me.
It really bummed me out when I knew that I couldn't see you on a weekly basis. So I keep it in my locker, and it's almost like a totem. It's almost like an emotional totem. Like, Tim. Yes.
Oh.
You honor me by having my picture in your locker. I've done that to other individuals too. When they left, I kept their photos in my locker. I actually have my own photo at home. I have Rachel's, and I think I have Stephanie's. But we also want to present you with genuine Indescendants
swag
sticker that I don't even have on mine. I'm going to put one, but we'd like to hand you one.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes.
That's for you to put wherever you want. We don't have a whole lot of those. So, that just goes to show that, that sticker hasn't been inflated yet. It's limited edition currency.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, man, it's so great to have another guest on this podcast. Like, always really awesome. And so we really, really appreciate you coming here, talking, and maybe we can even do it again,
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. The honor's mine. I've had a great time. It was totally worth it.
get a good steak.
I know you have work tomorrow, but man, I would love to sit here and chat for like.
Yeah. Well, it's also just the fact that we don't have a whole lot of card space. People got to get to. Oh, see that camera already quit on us.
Oh, GoPro beeping over there.
Yeah, probably the battery more than anything. Not like that's only supplementary footage. Plus we're at the end. But anyway, main point, Alfred. So great to have you here. Appreciate it. Hopefully you can come again, and thanks for joining us, man. Like we can talk again more sometime.
I had a blast, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too, listening in while you're
what a treat
folding your laundry.
Please come back again. Please,
Yeah. We'll say this off air, but some people do other things to our podcast too. Okay. So we'll talk about that later. But anyway, that was us. Thanks, Alfred, for having us, for being our guest. Rather,
take care, y'all.
And take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Hey guys, Jason here from Indescendants. We really appreciate you watching our videos. For more of our content, hit the subscribe button below.